Once said, I am not an African because I was born in Africa, but I'm an African because Africa was born in me. Marcus Messiah Garvey once said, the people without the knowledge of their culture, their traditions and their history of origins are like the tree without roots. Itlamene gwele khakhailo ngobya bamadiba umalala jongile mhlexa maguso kwemilonde ekhaya elanqanqathi laqhakaxhaka laqhoma maqhoba Tabambeki once said, I am an African. I owe my being to the hills and the valleys, the mountains and the glades, the rivers, the seas, the trees, the deserts, the flowers, and the ever-changing seasons that define the fates of our native land. Remember, we are the ones who've been waiting for.
Wow, Mbugeli, beautiful performance from Jessie Kambangeni. City, I am an African. Nina basembo, siyabulisa bantwana bomquba. Sithi hlisana maqhala nibophi inqawe zenu. This is Expressions, a platform for you as a young person to air your views. Liema, we are commemorating Youth Month. Let us not forget what the struggle hero Biko stood up for. Black consciousness. Siyazi into yokubana kade kushalaza exinanisa kaloku the black culture, the pride, intellectualism, literature, and excellence. Well, igama lam Dimlo Kalosa Kalubisi Umandla Ngothi.
And of course, I am Uliama Vomi. It's great to have you with us right on Expressions. Well, the youth of South Africa have throughout history played a significant role in changing the course of the country's contemporary history. We are in 29 years, Colossa, of democracy, but it seems like because the philosophy of black pride continues to be relevant among Abantu Abasha. We are seeing, of course, more young people unapologetically embracing their culture and traditions. Hence, we ask you, Bugelwam Apoekaya, for a poll question. Do you think black consciousness remains relevant in this age? Well, we caught up with the students from Wits Bonagebasbiza Wits Zulu Society. Let's see what they went up to.
Inhlangano engasho ukuthi yaqala ukuba ibhekelele abafundi bangamaZulu abakule nyuvesi iVets Zulu Society. Into esiyenzayo sifundisa ngamasiko. Sizoqoka uMiss noMr Zulu Society, Vets Zulu Society.
Ama-cultures ahlukahlukene ahlanganayo la. Umbuzo uthi ke yini le esiyenzayo ukuze sisi-embrace away from home. Sabukela ukuthi ke i-pageant asiyenze ibe ne-cultural element. Into esibheka kakhulukazi ke uma ususe-stage modela confidence. Zulu Society is more than just a society, it's a brand, man. That's why we have SABC Expressions coming to us. Ngoba sisibakhulu.
Hloso ngqangiyako ukuthi beqoqa abafundi abasuka emakhaya ukuze mabefika kule ndawo bengayithola umuntu esengaphandle. Into esiyigqugquzela kakhulu nje ukuzazi. Ungabe sesiyafika nje la sesiyakhohlwa konke lokho esihleze sikufunda emakhaya. Kuyinhlangano ke engavulelekile kumaZulu kuphela.
uZulu Society sihlukene ndingoxhosa ngasemasukwini.
Ngoba into ebalekile ukuthi sihlangane njengabantu bohlanga sifundisane lapho nalapho.
Ukugcina usiko kunobuhlakani obuningi futhi kuyasisiza kuyasivikela naseyintweni eziningi ezingaba yingozi empilweni zethu. Kumele ungayikhohlwa lapho phuma khona ungayikhohlwa imvelaphi yakho.
Going back to my culture actually reminds me of who I am, what I'm supposed to be. Bathi funeka ujonge emva uze ubone ba ndiyaphi empilweni.
We focus more on girls, but abantu besilisa bayasala and balahlekelwa amasiko abo.
Sazi ukuthi thina into yethu imvunulo yethu sigqoka kuphela uma kuyimicimbi. awukwazi ukugqoka imvunulo nje la ngaphandle uhambe ngayo uyisonkele ngayo. So ileyo nto engibona ngathi mhlawumbe ngingazama ukuyishintsha leyo ndlela thizeni ukuthi kube khona mhlawumbe izinto ezigqugquzela intsha nezingane nabantu nje abangamaZulu ukuthi siqhaje ngamasiko ethu ngoba inhle lento yethu yakaZulu.
Wow, interesting conversation with young people. Kuhle kakhulu Mbukeli to see young people embracing their traditions via Vets Zulu Society. Well, to help me unpack this discussion, namhlanje in studio, I'm joined by Dr. Imboni Utata Uzulezwe Upungane. And also we have Ukhulani Skosana from Vukataki. Masinbulise sinamkele expressions.
Siyabingelela nakababukeli bethu banamhlanje.
Siyabulela kakhulu. Tata Pungane, ngifuna uqala ngawe. We are seeing young people embracing unapologetically their African practices. What do you make out of yonke lento? Do you feel that young people are resonating with a black consciousness?
Yeah, into enhle kithi masiyibona leyo ngoba we always sisho ukuthi isizwe esilahla impande sazo isizwe esidukile esilahlekile. So masibona abantwana bethu be embrace roots zabo, culture zabo, it's encouraging. But of course we need to ask ourselves, is it enough? And is even a black consciousness enough?
Interesting. Is black consciousness enough? And I know that we movement yako nawe uqhuqhuzela kakhulu abantu abatsha. Currently, where are we sitting at?
The youth currently is lost in their knowledge of themselves. You understand? So I think we need a spiritual revolution. We need a cultural revolution. We need an economic revolution from a black conscious point of view, because black consciousness, we should look at it from a broader dimension.
We've seen young people toyes golwen office must fall. We've seen young people toyes golwen because bangabe insimbi zesintu. There's also this lady nayo toyes golwen because of Afro yakhe. How far are we willing to go ukuze siqiniseke into yokubana yonke le nto tata sisiphula nengcambu?
I don't think that anything will be solved singakataphi in the African indigenous spirituality, because understand the mindset of this teacher or teachers abaseskoleni and see these children now befuna ukupractice i-Africanism yabo, that is culture, ugqoka and whatever. But umbani lo teacher, you know what guides this teacher? You'll find good teacher, yes, mnyama, but in terms of mindset yakhe ne spirituality sakhe, it's foreign. Therefore, if we don't correct that, the problem is not going to end. You know, there will always be enemies of the Africanism as in totality, and those enemies are not necessarily white or colonizers or colonialists, but it's the very black people.
As we 29 years into democracy, would you agree that now we are under a silent oppression? Because as I mean, you are not born free. Would you say that we are living under silent oppression?
What forms the foundation and what forms the major part of a human being is your belief. Everything else, life in yako, it's temporal. What is permanent is what you believe in. If a belief yako is not rooted in Africanism or Africa spirituality, it's of a foreign nature. Somewhere along the line, lobo pan-Africanism bako and your black consciousness bako, buzo hambe pine buz contradict. And that is why after so many years of democracy, you see there is some improvements, but we seem not to be getting where by now we are supposed to be.
So lilonke tata uthi spirituality must lead.
Spirituality is the foundation. It was in indigenous Africa anyway. It has to be. There must be a point. There must be a common ground between all of us. If there's no common ground, then sizawufamblisha ngalento.
I want to come back to you, Vukataki, because I mean, Utata Pungane raised something very important. Bana asizukwazi uyaphambili without tackling the root cause. Looking at the education system, do you feel that it's addressing izinto esijongene nazo as abantu abamnyama? And I know that you're also into entrepreneurship. Do you feel ukuthi iyasiprepare as young people so that when we are out in the real world, we are ready to be inventors, we are ready to start our own businesses?
No, I believe that the South African education system, it trains us to think within the confinements of an employee model. So it trains us for jobs that are not there. So the problem with the education system, I think we need to go back to, you remember back then, there was in the education system, bekonabo agriculture, bekonabo woodwork, bekonabo carpentry. Now all that has been phased out of the education system, you understand? So South Africa has a skill deficit, meaning that abantu abane skill, they are not that much at all. So by way of example, we wear shoes every day, but we don't produce them here in South Africa, understand? Whereas we do have the capacity to produce our own shoes. We are rich in terms of our mines, and our land is rich and fertile, but we are not trained in terms of Utisiba miner. I was a student in a certain varsity, so I was doing business management, but there I was trained to think within the parameters of an employee model. So when they give you a scenario and they give you a textbook that are European or American, so they're going to give you a case study about Walmart. In you trying to solve that problem, they will say, as a manager, if you are faced with this problem, they say as a manager, not as a owner. You see now, they are conscientizing you to be an employee. Hence why now you find a business a degree as a strategy and paying for a job, whereas he is the one waiting to create
Lilonke African problems for African solutions.
Yes, most definitely.
Ixesha luthaba Mbukeli Embo siyabizwa. We continue with this discussion. Make sure that you do not move a muscle. Siyabuya Ngongoku. You are watching Expressions. Right, Mbukeli, where Expressions right about now silapha eCosmos City sawundwendela kaloku iziko iGogo Ndlanzi Institute apho ke sizawuncokola noThokoza Gogo abasebenzi ngabantu abatsha to find out from them into yokubana why are they embracing unapologetically the sacred healing of ubungoma. Masingene ngaphakathi sifumanise ba what's Qoops. Follow me. Thokozani bogogo ayicamakwini siyanamkela kwinkqubo yethu Expression. Fikelele njani kulinqanaba lobomi?
I knew my gift from when I was growing up, because I grew up in a family whereby they knew, okay, this child is actually gifted. However, when time goes on, the family shied away from ancestors rather, and they tried to front it and it's like, no, there's nothing like that. How about you go to church? Every time when it was Livuga, they cannot handle it at work. And then once I get into closing, I faint. Waking me up is the challenge. That's why I found myself at the gate.
I booked an appointment. I came for a consultation. Bangjela what I had already heard, but I was in denial. 11 months later.
It's been happening for young people. Nilapha nina nisendumbeni, you Ndumba rising. Don't you feel left out? Gone by you?
There's no point of being out there more as you're dying. You're dead inside.
It's either your lifestyle or your life, rather. So are you gonna get sick while enjoying life, or are you coming here for healing?
Ancestors are demons.
As much as they call it demons, I cannot call my great-great-grandfather demons, meaning at some point when I also pass away, I'm also going to be a demon. So I think it's lack of knowledge. They need to educate us more as young people about spirituality. At some point, I also thought, you know what, I don't want to sangoma here.
More than anything is educating.
When we see sangomas, we associate them with filth. But understanding that being a sangoma, you're a spiritual healer. What does it mean being a spiritual healer?
Well, what an interesting insight there. Really talking about Abantu Abacha partaking in their traditions, specifically izinto ezidibanisene namadlozi and of course sangomas. Well, welcome back. This is still Expressions right on SABC One. Great to still have you with us as we continue to talk about black consciousness, and we are asking you, Apoika Indokokbana, do you think black consciousness still remains relevant in this age? Well, to still continue unpacking this very same topic, I have the pleasure of being joined by Umama Jessica Mbangeni. Mbengeni. Kamaguma. The conversation that was transpiring at Desigeni, bebethetha about spirituality and even tracing it back to the root cause. But going to Funubuzi into Wambile, what's your assessment of where we stand currently in terms of black consciousness?
We have always been practicing our cultures and traditions as in the deep rural areas. And what is taken out there is actually a brainwashing the whole world, the whole continent, that we as Africans, we have moved away from our cultures and traditions and the pride of who we are. I have discovered that when we were traveling the North America, actually the people in the diaspora, the Pan-Africanists, are being inspired by their roots, where they come from, where tina besifundiswa nasezikoleni ndoba uqala uthi kuthiwa ufuna bayintoni uthi ndifuna ba mlungu because xa usithi ufuna ukuba ulime wena kuthiwa hey ufuna ukuba umlimi into yapi leyo uthi kodwa gqi umlimi wenye indawo so kube imvela kancane kanti we are farmers, we are artists, we are crafters, we are architects of our own lives.
Using indigenous language, how can we do that?
We need to what you call to be in charge of our lifestyle, of our daily living, and know who we are. We need to possess ourselves, and aggressively so, because even that Western influence has got nothing. They are empty, and those who are there, they are sticking to their cultures, and they are creating a pop culture which we think it's a Western culture. There's nothing in England. A Jewish white woman would come at the end of our conversation with our Pan-Africanists, the diaspora professors and students who were milking from us, actually drinking from the well of life, and said, actually, in Africa, they are no longer practicing these things. I was like, excuse me, I had to retaliate. I had to fight and say, I cannot sell my people. We are practicing this. If when you had your view was over Soweto, I'm coming from Ngamakwe, Emagazini. Apho siqhela inkomo thina ekhaya kwenza imicimbi kwenza umbuyiso ndibhodla nje kaloku madoda ndikhule ngokundivumayo ndibhodla ndimdala kudideke ingwevu nengwevukazi.
Londo leyo zinga siyazinga nathi ngawe. Speaking about londo leyo, how can talk about your highlights and izinto mhlambi oye wazifuna in your traveling, the diaspora, the entire diaspora, and also how you still remain echoed in who you are as an African.
I've traveled to Jamaica, where I found my people are hungry to come back home. And they were enslaved from West Africa. Even here in South Africa, we've got artifacts that were taken away from us. We've got our people that were given education just to milk them, being given masters. We've got our great Charlotte Maxeke that we don't know that she belongs to us. Why do we have ukuba uyofunda ufunde ukwazi lebhekile uchevlani bangwantoni?
Well, thank you very much for still interacting with us on our social media platforms. You can also send through your comments at expressions_10. For now, though, it's going to an ad break. We'll be right back after that. Stay with us.
Welcome back, Mbukeli, where Expressions. You are still watching Expressions. We are talking about black consciousness. Make sure that you do interact with us on our social media platforms. Do you think that black consciousness remains relevant in this age? Dr. Imboni Uzwilezwe naye ukhulani. We know, Dr. Uzwilezwe, you also travel around and you are embracing African spirituality. You are rooted. Why didn't you conform to the societal standards?
My African Spirituality Foundation, inform everything else, our economy, our cultures, our traditions, and everything else. So it is being rooted in the African spiritual context.
Vukataki, how do we ensure that as young people we are empowered economically, because xa sithi siyajonga sisilelo na lizwe elihluphekileyo kodwa sinezinto zonke, we have the minerals.
We should self-educate, understand, because self-education is the best form of education. We are living in an information age. We can utilize YouTube and learn skills there with YouTube and use those skills in order to create employment.
Each generation tata ine role yayo. It's either you fulfill or you betray whatever mandate. Ingaba thina uxanduvo lethu singabantu abatsha to make sure that we uphold African spirituality yethu, we own it, and isiphumelelise kananjalo.
Yeah, masi in yonke into we invest. So as youth, they must seek. Umhlonishwa la ukhuluma ukuthi they must seek more information in terms of business. Young people today mabafuna spiritual identity sabo. Yabo, abaningi babo namhlanje, they know their cultural identity. Baziqhenya bafaka isintu, but spiritually they are misplaced.
Can you share with us some of the projects ozenzayo uqinisekisa into yokubana uphucula abantu abatsha?
I have an online magazine called Vugataki, which is geared towards awakening the black race. So there we are promoting African beauty. We are trying to decolonize the minds of our people. We are pushing entrepreneurship.
Young people would argue that, oh, I have this cultural identity, but andiphumelelisi mhlawumbe omnye ethi no ndiyasazi isiXhosa futhi ndiXhosa esinganqengwanga. But in this modern time esikuyo, how can we use it to advance ourselves also?
We are under a certain leadership. As is control, we must have leaders zona self who start to go back and seek his spiritual identity and black consciousness, and then they will promote izinto zethu. If uthetha isiXhosa, umZulu, ubani, you invest yourself in languages, and the opportunities will be more for you, because then the country itself, i-country ezithandayo, i-country buyele back kububona.
Vugataki, amazi nje amancinane as we are commemorating Youth Month.
So as Africans, we need to decolonize ourselves from all colonial thinking, from all these indolence. Like as an artist, say you are an artist, you must use your art as a revolutionary instruments to add value to the people. Like I am a writer. I write from a spiritual level. My writing is geared towards changing the narrative. Like whatever you do, incorporate black consciousness in your artistry.
As we are commemorating Youth Month.
Abantu abasha masifune spiritual identity sethu, not only tradition and culture but spirituality. Let's be a spiritual youth, and in that case, sizo overcome these difficulties as beginning us.
Interesting conversation, really intriguing conversation as we combine Africa Month and also Youth Day. And I like that the guests are touching on all sides of the spectrum. But what I take away from all of this is spiritual identity is the most important thing that you can do for yourself. As umntomtsha unganxibi nje umbhaco iphelele apho yeah, but we have to wrap it now.
Yeah, we have to wrap it. Ngenene ziyaqhuma inqawe emaxhekweni. Thank you so much to our guests for joining us.
Indeed. Well, of course, as we close it up, we are going to be closing it off with a Ngabi Nation, and the title of that song is Voicemail. Take it away, guys.
When we stand us, no man better sometimes.